photograph in some journal, you are not supposed to change and publish it somewhere else again. Repurposing means थोड़ा इधर उधर किया और pass on कर दिया. Let's say you make a material and you get these photographs as SEM and TEM. You know SEM? If you take that and you publish it in one good journal, can you repurpose? Change the angle of the photograph, do something? कुछ रब करो थोड़ा सा पेंट शॉप में जाके, चलेगा? This got the name I have written this, but to be honest, 25 papers were retracted by what was literal huge level of plagiarism as well as falsification, fabrication and falsification. False data. Why false data? You have already published that data and you have slowly started changing the photograph to publish in other journals and passing it on as new work. This happens in IITs. This happens in some of the top institutions where 25 papers from one scientist have been retracted. You know what happens with retractions? What happens to the professor? आराम से है वो, आराम से. All the blame goes back to the students. Someone is working somewhere, the whole career is gone. Because at the end of the day, that's how the law looks at. Someone will say, it's not my fault. Students created the data. But it is the responsibility of the corresponding author while submitting the paper to check that the data is original and check it thoroughly. Otherwise, this is what happens. And there is something called as a retraction watch. I've given that. If you see a retraction watch, the number has already gone beyond 50,000 or 1 lakh. And most of these are retracted after the COVID. क्योंकि जिनको कोविड का मालूम नहीं था उन्होंने भी रिव्यूज लिख दिए. बहुत सारे पेपर्स ऐसे ही पब्लिश हुआ है, बहुत सारे रिट्रैक्शंस हैं. So something which we should be very, very careful about. Okay. Next one. This is one example I have given, right way to publish already published images. So if you see on the left hand side, you have a protein. Okay, it was already published, but then below it was published again. Same photograph, nothing more. But then how do you do it? You go onto this website. So if this is published in RSA Advances, you have to go into the RSA Advances. There is something called as rights link. You have to then detail what image you are taking, which is the publication, what are you going to use it for, and you get this permission. This is a permission that you have confirmed that yes, you can go ahead and use this. When you are submitting the paper, the permission has to be submitted to the publisher as well, stating that I have taken the right permissions, I have given the reference of this previous paper, and now have the full right that I can use that as a fundamental structure to define some science. This is what we will be expecting from you as well, that if you are using some of these photographs from journals, we will be also teaching you later on how to get these permissions. And based on that, if you have some images like these, you will have to get acceptance from various journals of these permissions, and you have to submit it back to us. Then only the papers will go ahead. Okay? Don't worry, all these aspects will be taught to you. Whoever is interested in submitting the papers, all these details, everything in front of you live will be teaching you. Don't worry about that. Okay? So this is again one more thing, 44,000. This is like several years back, but it has already gone 50 to 60,000 now. So this is something which is a very serious part. I just wanted to put it across. Plagiarism is a big thing. It gets bad words to the institute, bad words to you, bad words to the country. I don't want to talk about what happened previously, but this year onwards, you will see a very clear, straightforward system, and that's why we got these associate editors into the system. They are from your areas only. They will have contacts outside who are scientists as well, and there will be a proper process which will be followed for checking the validity of your data as well as trying to get you the proper process as what you get outside for publication. Okay, this is where I want to stop, but maybe just before that, this is what is called as ChemDraw. If you see, a scheme has been written. You have various options, all the structures, equations, even you want to create proper scientific equations, you can create that in this software. And originally if you do it, then it is much easier to even start working with colors. You can make it look very, very, crystal clear. And if you see the last year's issue, like the volume, there was one paper which really stood out. And that's because the student had used ChemDraw so effectively that when you see the images, they were crystal clear and very crisp. That's what you can create. And if you want to learn this, that also we will be teaching you. But there are various tricks for creating the structures and equations. So do not worry about that. We will teach you most of the things which are required for you to publish a good quality paper. The only thing which you should keep in mind is plagiarism as such should not be allowed to come into your writing. Once you learn this here, I can assure you, anywhere you go in the world, you will follow these guidelines, and mainly for this country, who has already suffered quite a lot because of these plagiarism problems. We do not want to be a part of it. Is that okay? So on that behalf, I would like to conclude my part, and if you have any questions, then we can discuss that.
For undergraduates who have never published anything before, is it a better idea to start with review papers instead of research papers?
Absolutely.
Because they won't have anything new, or perhaps, I don't want to say no, but to add.
Yes.
So that maybe with enough review papers, they get enough grounding of the area and
yes.
then have something new to say.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's a very good idea. We do it more commonly in our research groups as well, even the first year PhDs who are trying to analyze what type of research project they will work on. If they are given the option of writing a review in that area, they would have read probably 100 papers, and while writing the review itself, they have a very clear idea what's the path they are going to take to create new projects. So it's a very good suggestion, and I think that's the real path. Anything else you want to add?
So one thing is, like, let's say for undergraduates who are not exposed to a lot of research areas, one thing that tends to happen right now also when I'm talking to my peers, this notion of following the trend or doing what school, like maybe let's say quantum computing or in AI, machine learning for that matter, if it appears cool or trendy, people don't go into that direction. So if there is some way to expose undergraduates to new research areas which are not perhaps cool sounding, but still would be cool to them once they understood it, would there be a resource of this nature which might lead us or perhaps give us a hint in what direction to take?
I think it's a very good suggestion. Maybe what we could do, and we always get these options from outside, to be honest. Let's say I'm a professor of chemistry. I would be told that what is the latest happening in the area of chemistry synthesis. Then I will create a full database of, let's say, 5 years, and then going into the next 5 years. Something which we can probably request to our associate editors, because they are in various areas. They could compile, let's say, 10-20 slides of the current latest and what's going to be the next 5 years research happening in their specific areas.
Yeah.
I think this could probably help you visualize what's the science happening now and what you might be working on in next 5 years. I think it's a very good idea. Maybe we can definitely think about proposing it to the associate editors. It's very good.
What's a good impact factor for an undergraduate who is starting to write review papers?
Mobile technology is fantastic impact factor. Impact factor. I will give you my honest opinion. Till the time that I had not set foot on this country, when I completed my PhD in postdoc, I was never exposed to this idea of impact factor in citations. I had no idea, simply no idea. No one ever used to talk in front of me, either in England or Germany or Europe, that this is the impact factor. We followed quality. we just followed that this is a very high quality journal. It's not easy to get through. After coming to India, I am exposed directly to and bombarded with this idea of impact factor. Let's be honest, chemistry, chemical sciences, technology, impact factor cannot go beyond 10, maximum 15. You know, cancer biology, the impact factor goes to 500. Can you believe that there is a British journal of cancer biology that gives you 500 impact factor? How can you publish it there? I would not think about impact factor. I would go and see the quality of the papers. If the quality of the journal is good, that means if you have the chance of publishing there, your papers will always be read more as compared to any journal probably which is not doing that much. I would rate it based on the quality. If you see the structures, if you see the quality of the review, very nice, very concise, beautiful, and everything detailed, I think that's a good journal. But let's say I have to give you details. If it is an impact factor, if you want to publish in top journals which are impact factor as a review, can you imagine 60 is the common, 20, 40, 60, 100. These are the impact factors. How is it possible for an undergraduate to start and to directly jump up to even 20? Not easy. I would suggest not worry about impact factor. You start writing first. Get that experience. It's over a period of time when you get you have some help from a professor who is excited. You have to propose. The process here, generally with these big impact factor journals, especially reviews, is you have to propose. I'll show you that later on. Propose your own review. If it is completely novel, they will take 2 months to check whether this is going to have any kind of impact in the scientific community. If they have already published something in that same journal or somewhere else, they'll simply reject it. But that doesn't mean that your idea is not good. That's why try to think about small things, because we also published 2, 4, 5, then 10, then 15, then 50, then 100. This is how the progression is. I would not worry about that. So even getting into Bombay Technologies without worrying, what is this? What is this journal? Idea is someone is at least giving an opportunity to submit it. If it gets published and reviewers give you good comments, I think you are doing a good job. Reviewer comments are supposed to be taken constructively, in a positive way. Over a period of time, you will see that points will start reducing and someone will start appreciating you. That's where you increase the quality. You go up. Okay? Some question.
So sometimes plagiarism can be unpurposeful. Means we doesn't know about that citation or paper. But
I will give you an example here. A specific sentence. Okay? 25-page article, 25 pages. A specific sentence which is kind of defined as a point which you want to make to define an area. You put it into inverted commas, okay, referenced, and you get the permission. Someone has done that. Reviewers have gone on to say this is a full plagiarized sentence. I did all the things right, but someone thought it is a plagiarized sentence. Invariably. It was not intentionally. So sometimes it does happen that you want to define an area and you just cannot get away but writing some things which are kind of original. Follow the right path. Even if you are taking a sentence from somewhere and if you come to know that it is plagiarized, unless until you take the permissions, you are in the positive. If it gets checked, let's say we check it and we come to know that it has gone beyond 20%, commonly we come back to you. We send it back to you as a paper and we said that it's almost 20%. We have said 5%. Why don't you do one thing? This is the part which has seen to be plagiarized. You can also check in your various apps and then start revising it. It's not that we outrightly reject it. Internationally, they outright will reject if they see a lot of plagiarism. And sometimes they are so crooked that they will put like a case against you that you have plagiarized, and we are going to report it to the editor-in-chief, and you might get blacklisted from that journal. Some people want to take revenge, right? Especially against Indians, there is a lot of resentment. It does happen. So if you are doing it invariably, as an editor, like our team, we might come back to you and say that these are certain aspects which we cannot allow, why don't you revise it? Then you have a chance at least. Okay? But outside it's not allowed that way. Yes, please.
Sir, regarding the choice of the topic for the review or research paper, can you just tell about the relevant questions that one can ask to get a head start for the topic? Like you need to start somewhere.
Okay, I think the first question is what areas I have been exposed to. Okay. In your own topic, let's say you are BTech in polymers, BTech in some other area, MTech is something, you're doing PhD in some area. Ask that question, that what are the areas, what all things are happening there, what is a topic that are available, and you might, the answer throw up which is thrown in front of you is, let's say, 10 related areas, related topics. Now ask the second question, what fascinates me most? Because you might have read something of each, and something seems to be applied either outside, it's not too fundamental, and you might think that it might be helpful from your future perspective. Let's say you want to go into a company and you see that the topic is applied. Why don't you take up such a topic? These are some questions which are there. Next is, you are going to refine it further. What specific application is coming out of that area? So if there is an application which is either a process or something which is more relevant in maybe diagnostic tools, let's say. Plastic is very much useful, polymers are very much useful in diagnostic tools. Although not a direct area, but you can imagine where it is going, mainly into biology. Let's say your future is into an entrepreneur into diagnostic tools, and you have to have a clear idea. It kind of defines it. The next question is, who are the key players in this? So there you will get some reviews, and when you're reading it, they'll throw up around 10 people who are the key players who have contributed maximum to that area. Why don't you start looking at their papers and try to see what is the state of the art? If you come to the state of the art, you come to know what is current. Then question yourself, what is the starting point of this area? Who started this? Where it has originated from? See, these questions are fundamental questions, and they will allow you to elaborate point-wise exactly how this area has grown. Why don't you show a nice timeline? 1980s it started, 2025 it's here. These are the 10 people who have generated this material. At the start itself, someone looks at this and say, oh wow, the person has put a lot of effort to understanding the whole, almost like a full screen, full detail of what's happening. So these questions, as and when you come forward, take it further. Okay? Ask from a personal perspective. आपको कितना लेंथ जाना है, कितना time डालना है, and what do you want to get out of it? Time is more important because all of you are working, teaching, whatnot. So your weekends, everything gets involved into this process. That you will have to decide how you manage time. Okay? How do you manage time, first of all? Okay, that's another question. You have. Exactly. I think logical pathway you can define. It could be 2-3 times that you will have to revise. Sometimes you write a chronology and then you say that maybe this is not what I wanted. I can change it. Sometimes you get a second opinion. Someone else, you wrote it and then you show it to someone else and someone says, no, I don't see that this para fits here. Why don't you take it above? So it's kind of a revision. We also do that when we are writing a review. Not every time it fits the first time. We create an idea and then we start revising it over a period of time to make it more relevant when I'm reading it. And I can see that the chronology is perfectly fitting. Sometimes, I can assure you, when you submit this paper for reviewing, the reviewers can even completely change this chronology. Because they are someone who is like a Stanford professor, let's say. And they say, oh, you have missed it. This part is supposed to be at the end and you have put it in the middle. So someone who reads it can get a better idea, but from your perspective, what's the most logical way? You put it across. But I can say that once or twice you need to revise. The first time you will not always get the chronology perfect. Okay? Any more questions? Okay? So everyone is interested in submitting? Okay, so we'll expect around 100 publications next year. But we will be happy if you can submit as many. At least, I think we're starting with today, sir. Tomorrow. So maybe we'll get some more instructions about the publication. Yes, please.
Sir, email करने के content में.
Sorry?
Content में email put out करने के disadvantages क्या है?
Content में यानी last में confusion you see. No, you should. See, at this time, I can definitely tell you that someone might object, but it doesn't matter. At least if you, from a student's perspective, you see that I don't see clarity in the work which has been done till now. Just articulate it in such a way, stating that, अरे क्या बकवास काम किया, ऐसे नहीं लिखना है. बोलना है कि I think a lot of work has been done, a lot of publications have come out, but maybe the impact which is expected is not yet. And these are the points which probably could be elaborated upon. So be constructive in your criticism as well. Don't be destructive. Because someone will read it and if that person only is working in that area, they will criticize. Okay. So I think you will be able to come to know. Anything else? So thank you. If no more questions are then I'll hand over the mic to you.
Thank you, sir, for such an insightful presentation. With that, we conclude our data representation lectures. I would now like to hand over to Samia More, our overall event head, for a special announcement.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending today's workshop. I would like to thank Professor Anant Kapdi for a wonderful session today. I would also like to inform that we will be releasing Google Forms for entries in the Bombay Technologist Journal along with the author guidelines tomorrow. Thank you and have a great day.